Greeting to you, ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners. Our mother continent, Africa, is burning, and something need to be done quickly in order to provide solution to the problems bedeviling Africa. You can see the map, the colored parts from right to left. We have Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. There is a very important question that we need to answer if we are going to provide solution to the crisis bedeviling the continent of Africa. Why coups are only taking place in Francophone Africa? We cannot answer properly this question without going back to history. We need some facts from history in order to answer this question so that we can be informed. Because if you are not informed, you are going to be deformed. So that we can be enlightened, educated, instructed. We can be armed with necessary knowledge that can help us to make this continent a better place to live. Now, I need to say this. During the time of colonization, Germany came to Africa as a latecomer. They were able to have some colonies, namely part of those colonies are Togo, Cameroon, Namibia, Rwanda, and etc. Now, Germany decided that they are going to make of Togo a model of development. They said, we are going to develop Togo in a way that whosoever will look at Togo will say, indeed, this is a model of development. Germany came to Africa in the year 1884, and they colonized they took charge of the colony until 1914 during the First World War. When they lost war to the Allies, they lost their colony automatically. Now, you see, the Second World War came, was fought, and Germany didn't take up to a week to make France useless. The then French president, General de Gaulle, ran away from France and was making outside his country empty speeches. Now the Allies, made up of France, Great Britain, and other countries, faced Germany, Italy, and Japan. Part of the strategy being used by the Allies to fight and win the war, some of them are: France came to Africa, recruited our forefathers without any training, military training. In French, we talk about tirailleurs sénégalais, which means a kind of unprofessional Senegalese shooters. They were not having any professional training, military training. They were carried like that. Our forefathers paid heavy price for the Allies to win the war. And that's how France came and took our forefathers, took them to the battle fronts. And the Allies also contacted United States of America and asked them, please, we need your help to be able to win this war. Borrow us what we need to fight the war. United States of America accepted what they demanded from them on one condition, that after the war, they would pay back. And the deal was done. United States assisted the Allies by bringing onto them what they needed through ocean. At that time, Japan did something. Japan began to sink the ship, the American ship, in the ocean. That was when the then president of the United States of America, President Truman, ordered nuclear bomb to be thrown on two major cities in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japanese surrendered, and the Allies were able to win the war. After winning the war, the African soldiers were released to come back to their respective countries. Togolese soldiers came back to Togo, and in the year 60s was the year of independence. When Togolese soldiers came back to Togo, the then president of Togo, Sylvanus Olympio, They contacted him, and Sylvanus Olympio considered his budget, said, we don't need excess soldiers in our military, in our army. And those soldiers were not happy. They carried out a coup. Those soldiers carried out a coup. One of the major figures of those who carried out the coup was Eyadema, the former Togo president who died on the seat of power on 5th of February 2005. You know, they killed the first ever coup being carried out on the soil of Africa, took place in Togo in 13th of January 1963. And it was the assassination of the father of independence of Togo in the person of Sylvanus Olympio. Sylvanus Olympio was a graduate. You see, he was a graduate from London School of Economics. He had a degree in commerce. He came back and worked as a graduate. And he didn't have just good intention concerning his country, but also concerning Africa. He intended having relationship with the United States of America. France became jealous, started manipulating the soldiers that carried out the coup. You know, after carrying out that coup on 13th of January 1963, Eyadema allowed another person to rule until 13th of January 1967. You know, when Eyadema was alive, he was called the man of 13th of January. The man of 13th of January. He carried a second coup and took power on the same date, 13th of January 1967. He ruled Togo till 5th of February 2005, when he died on the seat of power. After his death, what happened? His son, For Ezozimna Nyasingbe, took his place, replaced him immediately. And as I am talking to you, For Ezozimna Nyasingbe, the son of the late Togo president Eyadema, still the current president of Togo. This is to tell you that from 13th of January 1967 till date, only one family ruled Togo. And in French system of government, in French system of democracy, a mandate is 5 years, and one can only rule maximally 10 years. The son of Eyadema went on to tear the constitution, went for third mandate, changed the constitution to be ruling indefinitely the country called Togo. As you go to Togo now, Togolese are languishing in abject poverty under the nose of France, who want to teach us democracy, who is telling us if their interest is attacked in Niger, they won't have any other option than to intervene. Now, we need to be enlightened. This is not, I said it, this is not the time to be hiding, to be giving excuses, to be saying, I'm not a politician, I don't do politics. Human being is a political animal. If you refuse to do politics, politics will do you. Now, we need to understand something. The West doesn't want Africa to be industrialized. They are planning it and they are executing it. If Africa is industrialized, the West will begin to record some of the poorest countries on earth. Eyes opener. Look at Libya, one of the strongest economy in the world, under the leadership, the rule of Gaddafi. Libya was destroyed by France, very unfortunately, being held by African man in the person of Barack Obama. They destroyed Libya to release terrorism in on the continent, on the soil of Africa. This is a strategy of the West to maintain instability on Africa so that they can lay hand on our resources. They will come and reap Africa of its resources, go back, build strong economy, close the border. When our youth will be migrating to them for greener pasture, they will be arrested, ridiculed on social media, deport them. You now understand why Africa is a continent of contrasts, the richest at the same time, the poorest continents. Now, what is happening in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and in Guinea is a good development. I will say it loud and clear. It's a good development. Do you know why? The West is telling us that they must come and restore constitutional democracy in Niger. Which democracy? The kind of democracy that is not being practiced on their own soil. You see, let me tell you, the supposedly democratically elected African leaders are just tools in the hand of the West. The African riches are divided between our supposedly democratically elected leaders and the West, leaving African in abject poverty. And these African leaders have been using army as a tool of oppression, a tool of destruction, a tool of terror. You raise your hand to tell them what they are doing is not right, they will use army to kill, to maim, to destroy, to useless, to minister terror, to keep people in silence. They are more dangerous than a soldier ruling. Now, if we can find patriotic soldiers, patriotic armies move with compassion because of abject poverty that their own brethren are languishing in, that will come out and say to the West, enough is enough. What do we need to do? We need to support them. Yes, we'll be monitoring to ensure that they will not abuse power like our current leaders in Africa are doing. ECOWAS is a tool for France. A tool for France to use to useless West Africa, African Union, all this abject poverty covering Africa. They have been seeing it doing nothing. What they cannot dare on their own soil, that's what they have set on the soil of Africa, just to lay hand on our resources, maintain Africa underdeveloped, so that they can lay hand on our resources and develop their own countries. We need to open our eyes. I don't want this video to be so long. We need to open eyes. We need to educate each other. We need to come out from our secret. The information that we need in order to solve the problem bedeviling Africa, coming from the West to maintain us in abject poverty, must be released. Trust me, I'll be doing series of videos to enlighten our African youth. You know, we don't need national movements. What we need is continental movements. African movements, a kind of movement that will mobilize African youths around this patriotic army to come to form a kind of solid continental movement to say no to the West. If not, we are going nowhere. If not, you see, a lot of things is taking place, a lot of things are taking place on the continent of Africa, not because our youth want to carry these bad things, but because of poverty. Poverty that the West is inflicting. We need to say no to them. I said it, I don't want this video to be so long. I'm going to stop here. Thank you. See you next time for another video.